sipping tea with Nat and Z. I'm Nat.
And I am a Z. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever.
Yeah,
Whatever
all of
it
that.
is.
All of that.
Mm-hmm.
What's good?
So nothing. I realized I was telling you guys early that I set myself up. So I volunteered to be a room parent for my daughter's school. And I'm thinking that room parent stuff is just like nothing major. Oh no, it's a lot. It is a commitment. And I found out yesterday checking our family email
Uh-huh.
and all of the stuff that I'm required to do. And I was like, oh, I did not know that this is what I was signing up for. On the, on the, how can I say this? Back end, it
Uh-huh.
will, well, on the flip side, even though it's a lot, I will be able to get all our hours done because you have to volunteer up to 30 hours. And so, yes, for the school year or, and whatever you haven't, don't like whatever time you haven't donated, they then convert that into money. And so then you have to give the money to the school. It's not a bad thing. It's not a big issue because, you know, then that the school is going to have the resources necessary to do the things that it needs to do.
Right.
So I'm a room parent, and so my first assignment is Halloween.
Oh, wait, what?
Yes, so
you gotta
Halloween.
decorate the room or something?
So basically, I have to contact the parents in the classroom, the parents of the students in the classroom, ask them if they're either going to donate something for this particular party, or if any or future parties, and if not, will they be willing to just give up $35 at the beginning of this season so that money could be spread out over the course of the year. And then it's a short turnaround time. So Halloween is on the 31st. So I have to have all of this done by this week. I have confirmation from parents that they're actually going to contribute something, and then have them contribute it. It's just like they have to do sign up genius. It's a lot. Now, for someone who's type A like me,
yeah,
I'm up for the challenge, but I really did not anticipate it being this.
Oh.
So, but I say this because we had this conversation, and this kind of ties into what the topic of the day is, which is trauma bonding and codependency and all this other stuff. I'm trying to break generational curses with my child. I'm trying to heal my inner child in the process. So this is definitely one of those things that I wish my mother was able to do with me, like volunteer, participate in PTA, just get really involved.
Right.
And it's not that my mom, it's not that I think my mom just didn't want to do it. It's, and this isn't an indictment on her. It's that I don't think she had the time. My mom was a single parent, 2 children, very young, trying to work. She didn't have the luxury that I have to take a day off, to take time off of work, and it not really affect my bottom dollar. Like, I can take off now.
True.
I'm not losing a day of pay. Right. Okay. I'm not. And I can balance both, right? Because I was telling Tisha this earlier, that I made a conscious decision after COVID to really do a work-life balance for myself. I just want to...
Understood.
I don't want to live to work. I want to work to live, if that makes sense. Like, I am only working so that I can afford to live the lifestyle that I choose to live. Correct. Like, to take my trips and to do all of that. That's why I'm very firm with my boundaries. 6:30. I get up at 6:30. Well, I start work at 6:30. I start work at 6:30, and I get off at 3. And, that works for me. And, there are sacrifices that I've decided I'm going to make, like career advancement, for example. Like, I have opportunities to really move forward in my career right now. And I'm contemplating if that's really where I want to be. Like, my daughter's 4. I'm 45. Am I 45? Yes, I'm 45.
Yeah, I just turned 46.
Yes, so I'm 45, and I'm just really more concerned right now with making sure that she has a good quality of life than me trying
Yeah.
to exceed, not succeed, exceed at work. And
Right.
so if that's me being a room parent all year, just for me being a room parent, I'll tell you this though, this is the last year they gonna catch my ass doing this shit.
You got it. You can like get it done and be out the way. Now you're
Yes.
good. Now you don't have to worry about it for the rest of the year. Kind of get it like a little break.
Yeah, I will
He
be.
said, "Oh, I will be. I will be
I
done."
will be.
So yeah, on my end, I'm just really sad. My beloved Duchess is kind of going through some things. She got hit this week by a lady in a Tesla, and my baby was parked, minding her own business, while I was in Marshall's scouting out stuff for my clients for their upcoming events. Came outside, there was all these people, and there's cops and a car, and I'm like, why is my truck in the middle of the parking lot? That can't be my truck. Oh, but it was. And then this nice old man came up to behind me and said, "Ma'am, is that your truck?" Yes. He said, "Damn, I'm sorry. Thanks, sir. Thanks."
Mm.
So the lady hit my truck. She jumped the median. It was parked. And mine's the only one that had to be towed. And she hit 4 other cars, including mine. So it's 5 total. Yeah, all expensive ones. My Volvo, a Mercedes, another Volvo, and 2 Lexuses, and hers was a Tesla, and her husband had a BMW, where he came up and picked her up later. But yeah, whatever. So I'm just gonna, I'm a little traumatized. So I know this isn't exactly in sync with what we're talking about per se, but the name of the show is Trauma Bonding and Codependency. But I am traumatized right now by the fact that I've only had her a year, and I just left the dealership for her and made her appointment for her yearly maintenance, and then this happened. So yeah, so I'm kind of really traumatized right now, a bit distraught, and thankful that I wasn't in the car. There were no injuries. I probably should have led with that, but you know what? I'm still in this distraught mode. So we're gonna see what happens and hope the insurance gods give me a brand new one with the butter interior that I love, and we can keep it moving because I need it for my business. Anywho, so I think we're gonna take a break and go. No break yet.
No breaks. No, we're going to the
See,
tea.
I'm sorry, y'all.
The
I am
tea on the
traumatized.
table.
I need a break. Maybe that's what it is. Subliminally, I need a break. I can't catch a break, y'all. I can't if it's not some health issues and some car stuff. Your sister need a break. I'm just yeah. I'm trauma bonded to trauma at this point. Proceed.
Yeah, and here's the thing: we also know, we don't realize is that our producer is in our thing, but isn't in our thing. It's just a lot going on this morning. Let's just say, Metro is it Metro?
No,
grade?
it is.
Not the Metro
It's a
grade.
full
What is it,
moon.
right?
Full moon, and we're in Mercury retrograde.
I thought Mercury retrograde ended.
I think there's a tail end. Some. It's Libra season. It's full moon, and moon is in some. I don't even know. We'll have to bring it back, Heather.
I feel like we always
It
are
feels
in
like
a
it. Like every
Mercury,
45 days, I feel like we're in
It
Mercury
does.
retrograde.
Yes, it ended on the 2nd.
Well, it feels like it's lingering,
Excuse me.
and I would like.
It does. And excuse me, y'all. I'm coughing still because I got the COVID cough. So this, let me tell you, this shit turned into
that's
pneumonia.
right. She did too, y'all.
Yes, it triggers my asthma. September had been trash, so I'm still kind of dealing with everything. But you know what? Like Kendrick Lamar said, we gonna be all
that part,
right.
because I will say, I'm glad you said that, because I did since we last recorded, I celebrated my 46th birthday. So, and I'm very thankful for that. So I want to be grateful and give acknowledgement to that, because I didn't think I would be here. So, due to all my health issues.
You know what? I think that deserves a round of applause. Look.
Y'all, it's just that kind of day. Y'all just.
This morning is so. This recording is so chaotic.
Oh my goodness. Did y'all hear my round of applause? Thank you, Z, for that round. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I am very happy to be. I'm very happy to be here. Do y'all know where that's from? Drop it in the comments if you know where that's from. So I'm thankful that we are going into this. Get to do this whole around the sun thing another year, and I would get to do it with the podcast. And I'm just really thankful that I'm here to see it. And
Good.
even though the dust is dwindling right now and other things are going on, I'm thankful. Things are cool, and I'm present and accounted for. So
yes. So let's get in. Our producer is telling us we need to get the tea on the table.
Thank you. Now moving on to tea on the table, or tea of the day.
It's the same difference.
Oh, I hope y'all enjoying this ride with us this morning, because we sure are. Let me tell you. So, I'm giving Z a minute to get herself together. Okay, go ahead with the tea of the day disclaimer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I gotta do that, right? Not tea experts. Talk to your doctor. Don't try to cure COVID with tea. We're not affiliated with any of these companies, and that's all I got.
Oh, the way I almost spit out my tea when she said that last part. Don't try to cure COVID with tea. It may help, but it's not going to cure it. But it may help.
Cure it. Let me say, I done tried.
It may soothe some of the symptoms. So the tea on the table. So the tea on the table today is from the Feel Good Tea Company. In light of what we're talking about, I wanted to make sure that we kind of had a high point in looking at what we can embrace with tea and making us feel good. So they have these tea and personalized gifts from Dubai, and they come in so many cute little packaging. They come in like a leather cylindrical packaging. They come in like in a box and stuff like that. You can customize your tea, and it's all loose leaf. And then there's some with health benefits and whatnot. So best of all, you can look forward to your gift being unique and one of a kind, as they provide these gifts that are sourced from Dubai. So I encourage you to look that up. They're called the Feel Good Tea Company, and they're coming out of Dubai, and they have a lot of great packages and a whole bunch of different teas. There were too many to list, so I just wanted to highlight the company itself.
I mean, that's pretty good, because I think this is the time of season where a lot of people like to give gifts even before the holidays, right? And with a lot of respiratory infections on the rise now, COVID still wreaking havoc, the flu,
all of that.
This is definitely something that would be good to give to someone.
They're really pretty.
Who is dealing with like something like I am, where I'm trying not to cough.
Right.
But I am.
Understood.
So, and teas are definitely, like I said, comforting. It's that time of the year
just want to like snuggle
I would
up.
appreciate a tea gift. Yeah. Because the leaves are changing, the temperatures are dropping. This is my favorite time of the year.
The chunky sweater and a nice cup of tea and chilling when it's not too cold. Like outside today, it's kind of brisk, but it's just really nice. A nice fall day.
Yes, it absolutely.
So I highly recommend looking into these.
Hot tea. I don't have a whole lot, because there are people that are doing things out in the streets that I really don't care for, and I don't want to talk about. So I don't have a lot other than Beyonce. I need you to drop the visuals already. Where are the visuals, sis? I've been listening to this album for 365 years and yet to see a visual. You keep dropping these Tiffany like little commercials, but I need full visuals.
That's funny.
I don't need TikTok dances to your songs.
Not
I need
TikTok
full
dances.
visuals. So where are they, sis? um, let's see if there's anything else worth talking about. No. I mean, there is
No.
something that I could talk about, but I refuse to give that
Yes.
clown
So
any
worth
additional
talking
attention.
about. So I give you that.
So yeah, so that's all the hot tea we have. So we're gonna go ahead and take a break. We're gonna collect ourselves, and we'll be right back with the topic of the day, which is trauma bonding and codependency.
And we're back. So as you guys know, we mentioned our topic today is trauma bonding and codependency. So kind of giving you guys to paint the picture. Have you guys ever seen a friend or relationship that's clearly toxic and unhealthy, and you wonder why they chose to stay with their partner, why they haven't left yet, or why they keep dealing with everything? And it's often easier for people on the outside of a relationship to recognize the signs of an abusive relationship. So October is in Intimate Partner Violence Month. It's also called Domestic Violence Month, but we all know that you don't have to be in a domestic situation within someone to be on the other end of intimate partner violence. So that is something that's a little bit more all inclusive in that terminology. So as far as trauma bonding, what is it? It's a major part of an abusive relationship. It's an example that's difficult to detect from inside a relationship, and it's due to the constant manipulation at the hands of the abuser, which is oftentimes may present itself with narcissistic personality disorder tendencies. And why do people want to know, like, why does it happen? Why do people continue to stay in those situations when you're with a manipulative partner? Um, we're going to try to touch base on all of those things, but to give you a better idea, trauma bonding refers to a strong emotional bond that develops between a survivor of a prolonged abuse and the perpetrator of the abuse. This bond can be responsible for keeping a trauma survivor in a toxic and sometimes potentially fatal relationship with their abuser. And a lot of times, we've talked about this throughout the course of the show, that folks may be trauma bonded for this, that, and the other. And I think for us to clarify what I think we thought it meant, that people in relationships that have trauma are bonded to each other because of their similar trauma. And in fact, that's not necessarily the case. You're trauma bonded to your abuser. That's the way it's been characterized. So, and a lot of that leads to codependency, and which is a learned behavior while you're in a trauma bonded relationship, and it's a learned behavior. It can be passed down from one generation to another, and it's a behavioral and emotional condition that affects an individual's ability to have a healthy, mutually satisfying relationship. It's also known as
Mm.
relationship addiction. So most people just say, "Oh, you're codependent," right?
Ooh, wait a minute.
Relationship
Relationship
addiction, right?
addiction.
So when you and after giving the definition of it, because I want to make sure that I'm not misconstruing um, it, because I know what we may have thought it was and what it actually is. Because I think our perception of,
Right.
oh, you're being codependent or you're being trauma bonded, because of social media and whatnot, we kind of make up our own or expand the interpretations or the actual
Mm-hmm.
definitions, and then lean into an interpretation which may not be the truest form of the intended word.
Right, because
Right.
trauma bonding, a lot of people have always, and I have too, thought that it meant like you
Yeah.
have your shared trauma, I have my shared trauma. We get together and we bond over the
Yeah.
trauma that we've experienced. That's what I've always thought
Yeah.
trauma bonding to be. I literally
Yeah.
always thought it to be that. But then when we started to do our research on this particular topic, I realized that that is not what trauma
Not at
bonding
all.
is. And it's important, like you said, because excuse me, we get on social media and you see all these people throwing out
Mm-hmm.
all of these terms. And these are definitely topics. These terms are definitely topics that we're going to get into more and more. But like you hear people throwing out
Yes.
narcissistic behavior, you hear trauma bonding, toxic, and a lot of these topics, phrases, concepts have been watered down
Correct.
through social media or watered down, thinned out to make it seem like everything that you see
Yes.
is toxic or trauma
Yes.
or narcissistic. And for a lot of these things, you have to be
Thank you.
clinically diagnosed. Therapy helps you figure out if these things are
Mm-hmm.
going on. Like, I've never even heard of codependency also being known
Ship
as
addiction,
relationship
right?
addiction. But it makes
Yeah,
sense. It
complete.
makes
Because you think
sense.
about you're addicted to that person just like if it was any other substance, so to speak. That you're addicted to them to stay in the situation regardless of what's going on. And we all know, well, for those of us in the field, we know when it comes to an addiction, it kind of takes on a life of its own. So when people ask you, well, why haven't you left? Why are you taking on the abuse? It's you're codependent on that person in an addictive manner. So you need that person in your mind in the state that you're in to continue the relationship and to give yourself value, whether it's skewed or not, and oftentimes it is, it's still the reality of what's happening for a lot of folks. And unfortunately, so just as a highlight, so there's some common risk factors that come along with this. And it can trauma bonding, can happen to everyone and anyone, and regardless of what the social media says. But it is it is maybe predetermined, or it happens more among people with poor mental health, have low self esteem. When you're financially in a bind, you may be inclined to stay with somebody because financially you can't go anywhere. So you just kind of take it. You don't have a support system that you can lean on. And then, of course, things that we had talked about, Zarifa, when in regards to past trauma, like what we had thought about that would lead to
Right.
these types of behaviors, or accepting these types of behaviors, and then you don't have an identity, or you're being bullied, and so you just kind of take it. So think about that. So
Mm,
if you're um in an abusive codependent relationship, for the bullier and the bully, that's a situation where there's some trauma bonding, because you just keep giving into the bully because you don't want to deal with whatever outcomes by nature of your self-esteem, your mental health, your whole situation, puts you in a bind and you don't know how to deal with that, you know. But it
right.
makes these risk factors make it much more difficult to recognize toxicity in a person, because you're in a
Right.
disadvantage. So you're not going to look for that. You're going to only acknowledge and celebrate the high points, regardless of
Right.
your state.
But it is still right, but it's still possible to recognize the signs of trauma bonding
Right.
in a relationship. Um, and it's important that many of us recognize some of the most common signs of trauma bonding because it would help us to have a better, I guess, better understanding of what could be happening to you or a loved one. So here are some signs that you should know, that would lead you to believe or lead you to suspect that a person is experiencing trauma bonding. They feel indebted to the abuser. An abuser is always going to want to be in control, and there's always going to be some type of manipulation or tactic that they use to make someone feel as though they're always going to be indebted to them. Sometimes it's domestic violence, and that's could be physical, can be emotional, can be mental, um, and I think and financial too, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, there are ways that people use
Yeah.
money to control somebody. Now, I'm indebted to you because I owe you
Right.
all of this money. You helped me get this house. You helped me with my kids, and now I'm
Right.
indebted to you. Um, you know, and the abuser will hang these things over your
Mm-hmm.
head to make you feel bad, even about the smallest little things
Yeah.
that they may have done for you, right? Um, And then you'll feel bad because for some reason you feel like, well, if I didn't, then this wouldn't be happening. When that's not the
Not at
case,
all.
right? A lot of people protect the abuser. We see these in stories all the time where someone steps in and they're trying to help somebody and then they themselves get hurt or killed for stepping in and getting themselves involved in a situation. And sometimes the person will protect the abuser. No, you're not going to put
Right.
your hands on them. You're
Or they
not
don't
going to
press
get involved.
charges.
You know, right? I'm not going to press charges. I'm not, he's fine. He's just had a rough
Hmm.
day. He's just, she
They
just,
just.
they just,
There's always a but
right,
just. Yeah.
right. Um, Covering negative emotions. Um, Negative emotions are prevalent in people who are being abused, but they don't want anybody else to notice them. And so there are people in your life that are probably in abusive relationships that have done a very good job of
Yep.
hiding that and hiding all of the negative and covering up all of the
Hmm.
negative emotions that come with being in that type
Yeah.
of relationship. They don't want their abuser to notice their emotion, right? Because if you are in an abusive relationship and your abuser notices that you feel some type of way about what's happening in a negative context, then that sometimes brings on more
Yeah,
abuse.
that's true. It puts you in that position because now the person is like, "Oh, you think this is how you see me," and it perpetrates other activities.
Right. Or the abuser starts
Yes.
playing the victim. Oh, so you now you're trying to make me feel bad. You know that I love you
Hmm.
and you know that sometimes I can't control my emotions, or you know that that's not how it really is. Oh, so now you just going to leave me like everybody else.
Hmm.
You just are just like every other person in my life who's always left. So now they're trying to make you feel guilty for doing what you for feeling the emotions that you are supposed to feel in these
Right.
types of situations, right? And if this is happening to you, this is a clear sign that you are trauma
Yes.
bonding. You are letting that trauma that you feel bond yourself to this person who is causing you all of this turmoil. That's that's
It is.
crazy. It's like
It is
Stockholm
right. It's
syndrome.
kind of crazy when you think about it, because then you start like with the whole, making excuses or protecting the abuser. Because then I think for some of us that may have been, or for some people that may have been in a similar situation, you're not only just protecting the abuser, it's like you're protecting and justifying your own actions as to why you stay. Because you're thinking, well, I know I'm a
Mm-hmm.
smart person. I know I wouldn't let this thing happen normally. So clearly it's just they're having a bad day. Let me give them a bit of grace and let it go by. And they
Right.
but you don't see it as that because you're trying to protect yourself as well as the abuser and
Right.
what they
Right.
are doing to you and those around you.
Right. Right. And and like you say, like it's interesting that you just said those around you, because one of the other signs that there's some trauma bonding going on is that your friends and your family don't support your relationship. Now, there are different levels of support. There are different levels of not supporting, right? Um, and you have to kind of figure out, if your friends and family aren't supporting your relationship, what is that
Uh-huh.
rooted in, right? Because it's not always rooted in trauma. It could be just rooted in you just an idiot.
Right.
You just dumb. You know what I mean? Like, and not to make it so simplistic, but it's not always as, you know, how can I put this? It's not always as just I don't even know,
Yeah.
chaotic, or it's not always some
Big.
like very
Right.
strong reason. So you have to, yes, big. You have to kind of figure it out. But we do know that from, when people are in these trauma bonding situations, that the friends and family
Yeah.
can see it, and they can see it
Much
very
better than you
clearly.
can, because I think a lot of times, like,
Yes.
those of us from the outside, if we see certain, like, we know, but we're like, are we sore? But we know something is kind of off.
Right.
And then, we've also talked about, you don't want anybody in your business in a relationship. So where's that fine line?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that when it comes to family and friends, that's really hard to deal with in trauma bonding, because
Yeah, yeah,
we're quick to be like, everybody's relationship is private. People need to stay out of your business to not complicate your relationship. But then at what point do you let people in your relationship because it's a life or death situation? Like, how do you like, where is
right,
that benchmark? Because that's a moving target.
right,
Because we all know, if we see our friends hurting, and we could be like, yeah, man, whatever, f that person, da 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 da, leave them alone, and we may just be chatting, but then that person may really be going through something, but we may not want to
mm-hmm,
intrude.
right, right, right. No, actually, those are facts. Um, I think one of the most, I think, strangest aspects of just trauma bonding. I don't want to say strange, but one of the things that I when I read this, I was like, whoa, this is a lot. Playing multiple roles for the abuser. And the reason why I said this is a lot is because some people are in relationships, and especially if you're married, sometimes as women, we do play multiple roles for our
I think that's
husbands,
part of a
right?
marriage part,
I
isn't
mean,
it?
yes, if you are married,
Six
you
million
play,
hats.
sometimes you have
Yes,
multiple
as a wife.
roles
Right.
in your relationship. But there's a difference between playing multiple roles in a healthy relationship, a
Yes.
normal marriage, a normal partnership, and when it like teeters into the level of this person is being is abusive, you are now trauma bonded to this person, and this is why you are
Right.
carrying on these several roles or
Yeah.
wearing several hats, right? An abuser to whom you are trauma bonded to is going to look at you to be their lover, their best friend, their parent, their therapist, their teacher, their babysitter, their accountant, their everything, right? um and then when you take on all these roles, you are being taken advantage of, and then you are developing an even stronger trauma
Right.
bond to this person because you feel like you need to be all of these
Mm-hmm.
things to the abuser, and I can't leave them, because if I leave them now, how are they
Right.
going to survive? How are they going to live? But that ain't the bag that you're supposed to carry. In a healthy marriage, you may have to be your spouse's
Mm-hmm.
calendar, help them
As their
schedule
helpmate.
doctor's appointments, remind them you need to go to the dentist, you have to get your prostate checked, you need to get your mammogram, you have to there it may be that you have to do that sometime. But if you're doing that all the time and that partner isn't contributing or pouring into the relationship, and when you don't do one of those things, if you decide to no longer take on that hat, put that hat on and take on that role, if that then causes a lot of turmoil and abuse in your relationship, that is trauma bonding, boo, and you
Mm-hmm.
need to get out of that.
Mm-hmm. It's hard though.
It is, and I'm speaking from somebody who understands the
Mm-hmm.
experience of trauma bonding. It's
Right.
easier said
And I
than
think we
done.
all have trauma
It,
bonding situations, no matter,
mm-hmm,
regardless of your situation. And it's not just romantic.
right.
You can be trauma bonded to your friends, to your family,
Mm,
to a boss, in your,
yes,
or a
yes,
coworker. It is not, that
yes.
coworker that always undermines you, or that mansplains or talks over you or takes your ideas in a meeting, and then they just keep, pulling and pulling and pulling from you, and you never speak up, and they take all your shit and use it as theirs, and you're like, I can't believe that happened. But that, there's some people that, in a work situation, they'll just be like, it's okay, it's not, my idea wasn't as good, or something like that, but they'll keep going to that person and sharing what's going on with work or their ideas with work, and then they get used, and
Right,
those thoughts are usurped for something else, and then that other person gets the glory, but you keep going back because that person is
right.
like, oh, that was a good idea, da, da, da. It can manifest in so many different ways.
It can, and it's also because sometimes a lot of us, not even a lot, but people who are trauma bonded have a
Yes.
weakened sense of self. And so when you have a weakened sense of self, it is easier for you. You become more susceptible to trauma bonding because you don't really know who
Mm-hmm.
you are. And that could be from childhood trauma. That could be from other relationships that have traumatized you. We had this conversation. I think I see more trauma bonding in friendships than I've seen in
Yes. Speak on
actual
it.
romantic
Speak on it.
relationships.
Speak
I've
on it.
seen it. I've experienced being in situations like, why am I allowing this
My life.
person to treat
Mm-hmm.
me like this? And they're supposed to be
Right?
my friend. Well, if everybody else is still their friend and everybody else is still hanging around them, then it's really me. It's not them. I'm the problem, not them. Because clearly, if everybody
Right.
else is fine with them,
That is
then
such a
it's
good
my problem.
illustration of that. Because if you think of your friend groups, just in general, people will do that. They will defer and be like, it must be me. So I'm just going to, suck it up and keep it moving.
Right. I'm just going to continue to let this person
Right.
talk to me
And
sideways.
not check them because I don't want to rip.
Because
But you think about it. If you have a friend group and there's one person or two people in your group that is causing you trauma bonding, but because our relationships are different with our respective friends and our respective friend groups, the other folks in the friend group may not be experiencing that person the way you are. And so because of that,
mm-hmm.
if you say something down, it could cause ripple effects throughout the friend group and folks looking at you sideways like you the troublemaker. So then you're like, you know what, I'm gonna just be
Mm-hmm.
quiet and keep taking it.
Right.
And that's
Right.
abuse in its own way.
Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
what are you supposed to do?
Yes. Yes.
And I mean that's how you feel. Like what am I
You
supposed to do?
and I think it's easier to find yourself in the situation when you're younger and you're still trying to
Yeah.
find your people and you're still trying to figure out who you are and what you stand for. And if in your younger years you do put yourself in a situation, well, in your younger years, if you do find yourself having a weakened sense of self, a weakened identity, so to speak, you are going to find yourself in these friendships, relationships more often. But it's interesting to talk about how people become susceptible
Yeah.
to this, to trauma
It
bonding.
happens all the time, and we've alluded to a lot of that already. People with relational and emotional trauma are usually targeted by perpetrators intentionally. Like some individuals who know that that know that they have this one up on somebody will look for people who have a weakened sense of self and latch on to that and become like an emotional vampire, among other things, to keep you in that cycle. But on the flip side of that, even though there are people that look out for those with a weakened sense of self, there are others on the other extreme that look for people who are strong, driven, educated, and fiercely independent so that they can feel superior to them when they break them down. It's like a goal for them. They're like, oh, that person thinks they're too good. I'm about to knock them down a couple.
And do you hear how sinister that is?
It is calculating.
That is fucked up. That is, sorry for my language, but that is. And then sad thing is there are people out there who will latch themselves to people like that and they do it because they have a weakened sense of self. And they want everybody else around them to feel the way that they feel. But let me tell you something. And I've always said this, and I will continue to say this. Words don't hurt me. You can come and say whatever you want to say to Zaretha. You could call me fat. You can call me ugly. You could call me broke. You could call me
everything but a child of
God.
God.
Call me whatever. Everything but a child of God. And I'm going to look at you like you're crazy. Because words are that. They're words. I can say whatever I want. It doesn't make it true. I can say that I am president of the United States. I am not. Just because I said it doesn't make it true, right? But the action is what bothers me. And this is an action. You intentionally set out to destroy me.
Sadistic. That is a sadistic behavior that is focused, calculating, conniving. I'm going to take over this person's life and F them over so that I can feel better about myself. And then other folks that are susceptible to this are people who will put a lot of value on the good times, bringing in something that, like, from one of our other shows, like the toxic positivity. People who focus on the good times all the time to kind of deflect from the bad times may be susceptible to this. Because they're like, oh, it's not too bad. The
Oh
good
yeah.
times were great. Da, 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 da. Oh, he's just having a bad day. But everything is great. Everything is peachy. And that may...
Or when you make
Yes.
excuses for your friends. Oh, that's just how they are. Oh, you know
Yeah.
that they're Gemini. Oh, you know
That's
that
how
they're
they
Scorpio. Oh, you know it's Mercury retrograde. Oh, you know the sun is going backwards.
Right.
Whatever the
And
shit
that very
is.
well may be true. But...
But
But... But... Yeah, it's just kind of, folks that may try to take onus for stuff and then be like, if something happens, they take the blame. Even though there's clear indication it is not their fault, but they try to take the blame to make everything just smooth over, because they want a quick fist.
like in Goodwill Hunting.
Yeah.
Like in Goodwill Hunting. When Robin, I will call him Robin Thicke. Robin Williams.
Yes.
Robin Williams, right? But he kept saying to Matt Damon,
Right.
it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And he kept laughing it off. Oh, man, go ahead with that.
Your fault.
It's not your fault. And he had said it so much that it finally broke him down. And he had to, like, contend with the fact that I've been
Yes.
carrying this guilt over something, and it's not my fault. It wasn't me.
And that's a lot, because that's already like coming from that other trauma, and they were trauma bonded to that situation because of what happened to him in that movie, and trying to get that through, and whatever walls that person had to build up to protect themselves from that sinking in. And now if someone taps into that, that's a whole other can of worms.
And let me tell you something that I think is trauma bonding. And some people are going to disagree with me. I don't give a damn. I was the movie, I think it's Tyler Perry movie. If not, it's Tyler Perry-esque. No, it's Tyler Perry. The movie with Kimberly,
Were he in the bubbles
Elise,
in the tub?
and yes, that was trauma bonding. Because let me tell you something. You is definitely not going to treat me like that. And I'm going to take care of your black ass. Hell to the no, 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 no. I am not going to do it.
But think about that.
Exactly.
That is such a good example, because think about the generations of that movie. And it happened in one of the other Tyler Perry movies, where the women, because we're married, regardless of how the man treat, and I'm just doing in this context, regardless of what the man put that woman through, trauma or not,
she gonna stick beside him.
You gonna stick? That's my man. I'm gonna stick beside him.
I'm not nursing you back to health. I'm gonna let your ass drown.
Square
business.
with them bubbles. Y'all know them bubbles.
Turn into,
just bubbling up. Just looking at them like,
I ain't got it in me. God ain't through with me yet. And guess what? He ain't in that part. Me and God just gonna have to agree to disagree, because that is never gonna happen.
But think about that. But it's like that's like, I think we're generational curses, if we're gonna use that terminology, which is quite popular now, come into play, because that's what women historically, because of the economic situation, women did not have a choice.
Pastors, right?
Yes.
Pastors, politicians,
celebrities,
Big Mama, your celebrities. These people have been trauma bonded to these people. There's no way in hell. And I'm not saying that trust me, I'm not above all of this. Trust me when I tell you. But what I'm telling you is I've learned that no, I to save myself, it's not even about me now. It's about my daughter. I'm definitely not going to allow my daughter to see trauma bonding, so then she could go with somebody's dusty son, and then trauma bond to him.
Dusty son. But think about that, because you think about how that gets passed on. Because if the trauma bonding is something that, if your child is there, they can see what your behavior is without knowing that that's what's trauma bonding is going on. So that's a learned behavior.
Right.
That becomes a learned behavior.
But it's also like you said with people who have certain
Yes.
personalities. If you have an addictive personality, this is something that's probably you're gonna be susceptible to it. And it's not to say that you're
Yeah.
gonna find yourself in it. It's just that you are susceptible to it. I have an addictive personality. So there are things I just will never do because I know I will become an addict. And
Right.
those are facts. Like, and I'm not trying to like make light of stuff, but there's just certain things I
Hmm.
know I could never engage in because I
Right.
would become
Right.
an
And it's
addict.
unfortunately, yeah. And
I
people,
mean, outside the fact that I don't want to do a lot of stuff,
fair
but
point. Fair point. Um, and no, and I think the one thing I think that speaking to the conniving and sadistic part that we were talking about earlier, a lot of individuals on the receiving end of this already have pre-existing mental health illness or concerns that they have yet
mm-hmm,
to discover, from anxiety, bipolar, depression, and then
mm,
folks,
mm,
lean into that, like we were saying, and they're like, oh, this person's depressed, this person needs,
mm-hmm,
affirmations, or even like love languages. They may
mm-hmm,
leverage love languages to make that person feel better about what's going on because they figured out what that
mm-hmm.
person needs or thrives off of. And then if they're sensitive to rejection, I think this is a really huge one, because for people that don't want to be
Oh yeah.
rejected and they would need to feel needed, or they want to make everything fixed, they're more inclined to put up with or find themselves in these situations.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And the thing is people are smart. Like a lot of we're saying this about people who are trauma bonded. A lot of people who are trauma
Thank you.
bonded are not dumb people. They're
Yes.
CEOs and companies. They're running Fortune
Uh-huh.
500 companies. You know, these are people with PhDs
It does
and
not mean a
a lot of letters behind
socioeconomic
their names. It's
status.
not. It
Does not
doesn't. It
discriminate.
doesn't. And so there are
Yeah.
stages of trauma bonding that a lot of us have probably experienced and maybe not have gotten to the full level of trauma bonding. You start with
Hmm.
love bombing, right? Because we can always say, oh, the red flags are there, but sometimes, and I'll tell you, I because we were talking about this during the prep for this, I was like, one of the things I had dealt with in therapy was like, I had said to myself, I can't trust my own judgment. I feel as though I cannot trust my own judgment, and I second guess myself a lot when I make decisions. And it's like, is this the right thing for me? Is this the right relationship? Is this the right, whatever? And so, a lot of us sometimes may see the red flags, but because we've been through so much trauma or turmoil in the past, and maybe we're working through that, we sometimes say, well, maybe this isn't a red flag. This is something that's a carryover from the issues that I have in
Right.
my past relationship, right? So, one of those situations where that could occur is love bombing. And love bombing is basically like this sudden intense attempt to like create this relationship, this strong bond with the other person. Like, you know, and it's excessive flattery, it's high praise, it's gifts, it's stuff that happens at the very beginning of a relationship that you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. This might be a bit too much. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Right.
flowers are fine, but flowers and a Tiffany bracelet, and you've only known this person for 2 weeks, that
Uh-huh.
might be a bit excessive. Now, it ain't tricking
Hey.
if he got it, and it ain't tricking if she got it. So for
Right,
some
because
people,
that's
that's
their love
nothing, right?
language.
That's a
That's what they
Tuesday.
do. They give gifts. It's no big deal.
Right, right.
Right.
That's a Tuesday for them. But you have to discern if that is them or if that is them trying to now control you through this love bombing, right? They're telling you, I can see myself having kids with you 3 weeks into the relationship. Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
You doing too much, sir. You're doing too much, ma'am.
Yeah.
What is all of this? Um, and sometimes the love bombing can be subtle. It can be
Mm.
gradual to the point where you're sucked in
It's too far
and now
gone.
they got you, right? It's too far gone. Other stages of trauma bonding, trust and dependency, right? So now I've gotten you to trust me and become dependent upon me, right? And this doesn't have to happen immediately. That's the thing. You could be in a relationship with
Yep.
somebody, they build up trust, and now they're saying, I got you. Don't worry, baby. I'm going to put you in this high rise
I
apartment so
got
you
you.
ain't got to worry about it. I'm going to pay for those classes so that you can
Mm.
get your cosmetology degree. I'm going, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to help you, boo. I'm going to help you. And then you become dependent upon them, right? Because now they're paying your bills. They're like,
Yes.
oh, you go to school.
Yes.
I'll pay your bills. You just focus on school.
It's
I
some people
got
call
the
those
bills.
sugar daddies.
I got your bills.
But
You're right. But some of that is not sugar daddying. It's not. So now that you've trusted and depended upon them, they start to criticize you. Oh, you're lazy. Oh, you need to work out. Oh, you need to get your hair and nails done. Why are you walking around in those ratty clothes? Why you doing that? Why you there? Why you here? Who, like, and then you're like, whoa. But you're so dependent upon them. They've got you to be this person who has now become dependent upon them. You are like, oh, this is just, he's just in a mood. She's just in a mood. Then it's manipulation and gaslighting.
That gaslighting.
Oh, I'm not the problem. You're the problem. I didn't say that. You didn't hear that. I didn't do that. What are you saying? And then you've then decided to resign and give up. I just don't understand what I'm doing wrong. I'm trying everything. I'm just going to give in. And giving in, you're giving up. You have resigned to the fact that now this person controls you. You lose yourself, and then the addiction starts to be in a cycle. Because now they'll love bomb you, they'll get you to trust and depend upon them again, and then that shit just starts all over. So, how do you break free from that? Because that's what we here are always trying to do. We try to give you the information and then try to help you maneuver through whatever it is that you're going through. So if you are somebody currently that's in a trauma bonded situation, or if you are someone who's watching somebody be trauma bonded, how are you going to help them break free? And I preface this with a big asterisk. Natalie and I are not therapists, but we've gone to therapy enough. We've been in a lot of situations that we talk about. So we're able to just talk to you from a place of understanding, a place of support, a place of love, a place of genuine care and concern, and from lived experiences. So it's important to provide that person with a strong support system, even in the times that you don't think they need it. And I'm going to share something with you. I was going through something, and I won't go into too much detail this episode. We'll get into it next episode. I was going through something, and I was young, and a lot of my friends during that time, and I'm going to say it this way, and they may perceive it a different way, but I'm going to say it this way, abandoned me, right? During this time period. And I think that that's the worst thing you can do when you're seeing or know that your friend is going through something. Yes, it may be difficult. Yes, it may be hard, but the worst thing you could do is just like, I'm just not going to deal with them anymore. If this is the situation they find themselves in, I have to walk away. Yes, you can protect your peace in that still, but trust me when I tell you, if you just stop, your friend is just going to get deeper into whatever situation it is. Because trust me when I tell you, the abuser is telling that person,
I told you.
See, your friends don't care about you. I'm the only one that cares. They're not even calling you. They're not checking up on you. They're not here. And that is what the friend right. And that is what the abuser wanted all along. They've isolated you now because your friends, your family, they've turned their back. And I know it's hard to hear this and to be like, I can't. You have to stay the course because your friend needs that love and support. Your family member needs that love and support to know that if they have to get out of the situation, they can. Because think about it. If they do find the strength to leave, where are they going to go? You're not talking to them. You're not dealing with them. So now where are they going to go?
That is such
what
a
are they
going
to do?
Zarifa.
Where are they going to go? And I'm not saying that you have to. I know it's hard to watch somebody that you love and care about go through that, but you still have to try to find a way to be there for them and manage your peace, balance your peace. Because I'm telling you from experience, if your friend is going through something that traumatic and they don't have the support system, they're getting deeper and deeper indebted into that and embedded in that relationship. And it is going to be hard to pull them out. So they need to have a very good support system. And, you as a friend could help your friend without them knowing, plan a quiet, conflict-free way to leave the situation. Sometimes that's difficult. Trust me when I tell you it can be done.
Very.
It
Yes.
can be done. It can be done,
We are
but you need
speaking
the
from
support.
experience,
You
both
need
of
to have that
us.
person. You need that. Yes, you need to have that a person. Um, and you have to understand that, you know, if you are in that situation, that your friends really do love you and they care about you, and sometimes it's hard to see that, but that you can, if you can leave,
Right.
and if you will be okay. You will be okay. Um, and you know, a lot of times, because the cycle of trauma bonding goes, it just continues and it cycles. A lot of times the victim of it does feel a little isolated, and they start to lack a sense of identity. And as a friend or support system, you can keep telling them you're great, you're wonderful. You don't want to call them, fine, send them text messages. I just want you to know that I love you, that I'm
Yeah.
always here for you. We're not talking right now, but I will never, ever, ever leave your side. I will never, ever turn my back on you. You will always have me in your corner. You are amazing. You are beautiful. You are great. You can do all
Right.
things. Just keep reinforcing that, because I'm telling you, on the opposite side, they're hearing you ain't shit.
Right.
You ain't never gonna be shit. Nobody likes you. Nobody
It's
wants you. You're dumb. You're fat. You're broke. You're poor. You're here with
right.
me. You can't go nowhere. You can't do nothing. You need to counter that. Provide them with a telephone number. If you need to
Yeah.
get out, call this number. Here are shelters. Here's a plan in place. Um, and then when they get out, have therapist numbers
Right.
readily available. Let's get you into therapy. I'll come with you to your first session if they'll let me. I'll hold your hand. I'll drive you there.
Those are all great ways. Those are all great ways. And then I think with those things being said and having those resources available, then it's time to also think about therapy. Like Z said, have those therapist numbers available. Have it better help. Like I've been in situations where individuals don't want to talk to anybody, but I've been able to give them those resources where they can text the therapist because they don't want to talk, or figure out a different vehicle for them to get that type of support, be it journaling or what have you, or right, whatever, to try to at least give options so that that person knows what may be available to them when that time comes. Um, and it's a great addition, to any type of therapy. But the one thing about this that I will say is key is not all therapy is the same. Um, my background is in therapy and psychology and all that stuff, and there's so many different types of therapy that can be delivered based on the type of situation that you are in. There is a trauma-based therapy practice that is trauma-focused, cognitive behavioral therapy, which hones in on what the impetus and the source of where this trauma may come from, and those things may take years to get through. This is not something you're going to go to the therapist and be like, okay, I'm broke, fix me. I don't understand why I'm traumatized. Because a lot of times your brain has put you in such a way to be in survivor mode that you've blocked those things out. But your actions are indicative of that there has been some trauma bonding going on in your life. And, there's other areas of therapy looking at survivors, and then what comes with survivor abuse and the residual things and the PTSD that can come from that. And those are key when you're starting to look for, if you're trying to provide support for your loved ones, looking for those types of therapists. And most survivors of these type of trauma bonded relationships at some point have all contemplated trying to leave their relationship before it finally ends. But we all know, because of the trauma bonding and the abuse and the verbal and emotional and manipulation and the gaslighting, that doesn't, all the best intentions cannot always be executed when you think they should be. You have to set realistic expectations, you have to plan, and then that's also something as a friend that you may be able to help develop some sort of exit plan strategy, and have that on deck should that person be like, okay, I'm ready to leave. And now you have some resources where that person can kind of be like, okay, I get it. Maybe I can think of different reasons to prevent them from going back, which is oftentimes how trauma bonding continues, because You are so bonded to that person. When you try to back away, you don't think you have anything to offer. You can't do anything for yourself, so you go right back to the person and be like, my life was better, even though it wasn't with this person, but at least it was consistent. At least I had a place to live, or what have you, So, a lot of the therapy that comes with this, because there's so many different types, there's a lot of things can come out of it that you may not be expecting. But these take time, and it usually will change the dynamics of your relationship with yourself or the former abuser. And then, but understand that there's, like Z said, it can end and you can move on and you can have post traumatic growth from all of this, but it still may be there, and healing is possible. You just try to understand where you are, how valuable you are, having your support system, and understanding that, it's not your fault if you're in these trauma bonding relationships, which I think a lot of times people stay in because they're like, well, it's my fault I'm here, so I'm just going to take it. I put up with it for so long.
Right.
I don't deserve anything else. So I'm just going to stay with this person because, like they said, no one else is going to want me. So I'm going to stay with the person who claims they do. And then that's a whole cycle that we talked about earlier, and just trying to get out of that. But as friends, I think, if you're even seeing this and hearing this, just have something else also possibly developed or on the side or put away for your friends that may be dealing with these trauma bonding situations.
Right. And I'll say one thing you don't was not helpful in situations like this is like, well, I told you to leave that person a
Yes.
long time ago. That's
At
not
all.
helpful. Those kinds of conversations and statements are not really helpful because you have to understand the psyche of that individual. And that is not unless you're a therapy or a licensed therapist or a social worker or something that's trained in it, that is not something that you'll ever be able to understand. And don't try to get your friend to be like, well, why
Yes.
did you, like, don't be accusatory, don't be judgmental. Why did you stay there that long? Why would you,
Yes.
if it was me, I could never. Those types of
Not
statements and
helpful.
conversations are not very helpful and actually could cause your friend to go
Yeah,
back
because
or
yes,
start to second
themselves.
guess the decision they made and themselves, because it's just like, well, see, he told me or she told me that I didn't have support on the outside of this relationship, and look,
Right.
you know, just meet people where they're at, give them a lot of grace and empathy and love, you know, and that's going to go a long way. But let's go ahead and take a quick break and come back with our last tip of the day. And we're back. So this is the last sip of tea with your hood Dalai Lama. I am your hood Dalai Lama. Here is the last sip. Many survivors have such profound deficiencies in self-protection that they can barely imagine themselves in a position of agency or choice. The idea of saying no to the emotional demands of a parent, spouse, lover, or authority figure may be practically inconceivable. Thus, it is not uncommon to find adult survivors who continue to minister to the needs of those who once abused them and who continue to permit major intrusions without boundaries or limits. Adult survivors may nurse their abusers in illness, defend them in adversity, and even in extreme cases, continue to submit to their sexual demands. And that is from Judith Lewis Herman, Trauma and Recovery, The Aftermath of Violence, from Domestic Abuse to Political Terror. So that is definitely, I think, the key that we've been turning, so to speak, this whole episode, where just understand that trauma bonding is so deep that that somebody who is getting abused will continue to be at service to their abuser and may not even understand why, but it is because they have been bonded to this person because of the trauma that they have experienced through and in this relationship. So again, just meet people where they are, show empathy, love, and grace. If you are someone who is in a trauma bonding situation, I will pray for you. Natalie and I are here for you. You can always DM us. And, just we pray for you to get the strength to leave, because we know it's not easy. It's never easy. And, you know, if you have someone that you know is in a trauma bonding situation and you need resources or want Natalie and I to provide some more insights, you know, DM us as well. We're always here and willing to share whatever knowledge we have with you guys.
Well said, well said. And thank you all for joining us this week on Sip and Tea with Nat and Z. You can follow us on Sip and Tea _ Nat and Z _ pod, and on Facebook at Sip and Tea Nat and Z to get information on upcoming podcast topics, guests, and news. Thanks for listening. And since October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, catch us next episode where we discuss further into the intimate partner violence situation. Everyone be safe out there. Let us know your thoughts on this particular podcast and give us some feedback. And I hope you found it was helpful, and be safe. Have a great week.